Hey friends, I'm Kerstin from Gym Goblin Growth. Welcome back. If you're new here, welcome. I am challenging myself this year to get into the best shape of my life and do a photo shoot in 2027. Hey friends, it's Tuesday and I'm really excited, like my inner data nerd is really excited because I am going to get a body scan done today. From what I understand, it's like this 4D body scan model of yourself where it takes the measurements of basically most parts of your body. And the reason why I want to get it done is because it frustrates me that when I take measurements, I don't know about you, but I never managed to take them at the exact same spot where I took them last time. Like even if I take them several times after each other in the same day, it's always frustrating because it's always like off by half a centimeter to a centimeter. And I am a data nerd. I get so frustrated from inaccurate data that I thought, hey, it's the beginning of this body recon transition kind of thing. Let's try to get comparable data because then in 12 months, I can go back to the same place and get it done again, and that will be relatively accurate. From what I understand, the scanner also takes your body fat percentage and your muscle mass, which I am really interested in because I got a new scale that also does that. Like, I'm going to show you the numbers later in the video, but from the first glance, it just seems a little odd to me because it gave me like a higher average body fat percentage, but then also like a high, like super high muscle percentage, and that just like I'm not that strong. So yeah, I'm just curious to see how these two measurements compare with each other. And I am also looking at getting like a DEXA scan, which is the medically most accurate way of measuring your body fat, muscle mass, etc. And it also gives you your bone density, which is especially important for women because a lot of women suffer from osteoporosis at some point in their life, and I don't want that. So yeah, this is the first step, body scan today, and let's see how that goes. It is a couple days later. To be completely honest with you, I have been procrastinating this video because it just feels a little bit daunting, a little bit, well, dehumanizing is a strong word, but just somewhat dehumanizing to just look at a body, at measurements, weight, and just cold data without regarding the person that this body belongs to. But I know that these numbers don't define my worth, and it is a starting point to just track progress and have a baseline to see from where I've come. But in the end, I know that I am more than my body. I know that I'm more than just numbers. These measurements don't define my worth. So let's get into it. What we'll be looking at in this video is my body measurements and my weight and some pictures of me at the beginning of January 2026. I will also be looking at weight measurements and body pictures of October 2025 because that's when I started my coaching with Becky. And we are also going to look at the results of the body scan, which I find highly fascinating. I'm gonna be honest, the first moment of seeing the scan results, it just felt weird because you get this little avatar of yourself that is clearly recognizably you, but it lacks any kind of personality features. But yeah, we're gonna look at all these numbers, at the progress I've made so far, and talk a little bit of where we're going with this. If numbers aren't helpful for you, that's totally valid. It's fine. You don't have to take measurements. You don't have to track your weight. For me personally, they help me track progress. I don't take them as gospel. I make sure that I have a number of data points that I base progress on, and these measurements are just one part of it. I do have my notes here. I actually had to write it all down because it's a lot of numbers, so please bear with me if I look down a lot. But yeah, let's start. So my weight on the 1st of January of 2026 was 80.3 kilograms, which is roughly 177 pounds. As I'm filming this today, it's the 16th of January, I weigh 79.8 kilograms, which is roughly 176 pounds. Now, let's get into the measurements, and I'll make sure that I pop some picture somewhere on the screen of myself. So my chest measurement were 99 centimeters on January 1st. My left biceps was 34.2. My right biceps was 35 centimeters. My left forearm was 27 centimeters, my right forearm 26.5. I find it really fascinating that my arms are different sizes, but it also makes sense. I am left-handed, so generally my left side of the body will probably be a bit more muscular. Around my waist, I measured 99 centimeters. My hips were 104.5 centimeters. My left thigh was 62 centimeters, and my right thigh was also 62 centimeters. My left calf was 39.5 centimeters and my right calf was 41 centimeters. If we compare that now to where I started the coaching with Becky in October 2025, I have lost a total of over 10 inches. I lost 10.5 inches and 26.8 centimeters over all of these measurements. Like, I'm not gonna go into them all right now. I'm gonna pop them on the screen somehow. So you can see the difference. Back in October, I weighed 87 kilograms, which is one of the highest weights I've ever been. Like, I think I've once been at 89 kilograms a couple years ago when I was just really, really depressed. But 87 was a pretty high number for me, and I did not enjoy the way my body felt. So yeah, just compared to where I am now, in just 3 months, I lost roughly 7 kilograms. And you have to bear in mind, in that time, it was my birthday, there was Christmas, there was New Year's. I was sick 3 times. So I'm pretty happy with the progress, but I also know that I'm not gonna keep up this pace, so it's all good. I am glad that Becky made me take body progress pictures at the beginning of the coaching and every 3 to 4 weeks after. Because whilst in everyday life I don't really see a difference, I can see it in the pictures, and it's just really nice, especially now that the changes are becoming more and more evident as more time has passed. But I'm not gonna lie, I never expected to put these kind of pictures on the internet for everyone to see. But on the other hand, I do pole dance where I don't wear much more than underwear, so it's fine. Go ahead. Yep. You do you. Now let's get into the body scan. So my motivation to get the scan done was that I am always a little bit frustrated with taking measurements because they're never the same. So while you do see trends, you don't really get accurate data. And it also shows in my body scan results, the measurements that they took differ from the measurements that I took. And I think that is because I put the measuring tape somewhere around my body without knowing precisely where my waist is, or the tension on the tape is slightly different. And they use this scan from all sides where you just turn around and get measured from all sides. So how it works is you step on this little platform and there are 2 handles that you hold on to. That's also why my hands look really weird in the avatar. But then you basically turn around 360 degrees, and in that time you get measured, and after a couple of minutes you have your results. What I found really fascinating about the whole process is that you don't just get your measurements, you also get your weight distribution. So they measure how much you balance on either leg, and they measure if your shoulders are the same height or your waist is the same height. And if you show imbalances there, it gets flagged in your results. And then you can take that to your doctor and maybe get it looked at if you need some help with your spine or if you need to take some measures to prevent future injury. Part of the measurements are also how long your arms are and your legs are, so that's really interesting. I now know that my arms are not the same length and my legs are not the same length, which I imagine everybody has, but it's still kind of fascinating to see that. And I know that I personally distribute my weight more on my right side of the body, which I don't know why, but there's a slight imbalance on how I carry myself, and I will basically monitor that with future body scans, and if it keeps coming up, then I will definitely talk to a doctor about it and see if I need to do something about it to prevent future back injuries or whatever you have it. Now, let's get into more of the data there, and I'll pop the PDF that you get somewhere on the screen. I'm sorry it's in German. In the app it is in English, but I could not download the PDF in English, so you have to bear with me. So apparently my lean body mass is 58% and my fat percentage is 27.9%, which is slightly elevated. Not surprised by that. Under 23% would be ideal, but my fat-free body mass index is 19, which is just in the healthy range of 19 to 24. And I didn't know this index before, but it is basically your muscle mass relative to your height, and you want to aim to 19 to 24. I also got my waist to hip ratio, which is an indicator of how much visceral fat you have. Visceral fat is the fat that is carried in your stomach region, and why it is so bad is because it tends to affect your organs, and it's also somehow connected to your metabolism, I think. Something like that. So generally, you want to aim to less visceral fat in your mid region because it is linked to health issues. And my waist to hip ratio is 0.8, which is within the normal range, but just within the normal range. For women, the normal range is under 0.88. However, under 0.72 would be optimal. So I've got some fat to lose there. But it's really good to hear that it's not in a medically relevant range, but improvement needed. And I also got my waist to height ratio, which is also a visceral fat indicator, and that is 0.49, which is also just in the healthy range of 0.4 to 0.5. Now, I don't know how they measured my BMR, my basal metabolic rate, because they didn't have any indications of how active I am, I don't think. Maybe I filled that out and forgot about it, but apparently my BMR is 1824 calories. I do have my doubts about that because the BMR is basically your coma state, so how many calories your body would need to survive in a coma if you didn't move, if you didn't eat any food, just lay there. And 1800 calories is higher than any number I've ever gotten with any of the other calculators I've used. So whatever, I'm not gonna eat according to a number that a scanner gave me because they're more medically accurate ways to measure it. And currently I'm just basing my calories off of how I feel and how my body responds, and it's working for me, so I'm just gonna neglect that. Now, I also got a new scale, and the reason why I got this scale is because it'll send the data automatically to my phone, and I want to work on phone-free mornings, so that is one of the motivations I got it. But also it's one of these scales that measures basically everything. And having had a quick look at the data I got from the scan and from my scale, it's not 100% the same numbers, but it's within the same ranges. So it'll just be nice to have like a few more data points that I can reference to see whether I'm going in the same direction, because weight is not everything. I do weigh in daily, however, it's not something that I stress about, it's just what I do every day in the morning, first thing I do, because I'd rather go off of how I feel and whether I've hit my macros the day before, whether I've been feeling strong and just generally good in my body, or whether I've hit the gym and, did a killer workout. That's more important to me than the number on the scale. And I've also noticed that it fluctuates like crazy with this new fitness journey. And it's got to do with so many factors. It's got to do whether I've been strength training the day before, so I know that I am retaining a lot of water, or I've had sodium-rich food, or I've not slept well. All of these things play into it. So my weight is really not that significant to me, but I do track it every day just to see a general trend. And if I saw that I stopped losing weight over like a longer period of time, so if it was like a month or two, then I could take that and look at some of the behavior changes that I must have done in the background to just pay attention to it a little bit more. But my most important data point is generally how I feel, how strong I am, how I perform on the pole, how I perform in the gym, because it's always been more important to me to look at what my body does for me than to look at numbers that my body produces. I'll probably do like a check-in video with the numbers every 4 weeks or something like that, because also part of the coaching with Becky is to take progress pictures every 3 to 4 weeks and body measurements. And I'll see with the body scan, either I'll do it like every 3 to 4 months or maybe monthly, depending on whether it's going to be covered by my Urban Sports Club membership that I'll be upgrading soon. And lastly, my scale that also takes like body fat percentage and muscle mass and everything. I know that these scales are never 100%, they can be off by quite some bit. However, I will use the scale to look at trends, and if I see, for example, muscle mass decrease, then that would be a sign for me to check in with my coach and maybe check in with the doctor to see what's happening there, because obviously I want to grow muscle on this journey and not lose it. So whilst I do have a pretty big goal around looks and body composition for the first time in my life, might I add, what motivates me most is actually more what my body can do for me and how it carries me through the things I want to do in life. I don't want to be skinny. I want to be lean and strong. I don't want to fit into clothes of a certain size because I aim to be able to show the muscle I've built in any type of clothing, but I don't really care what size clothing that is. And I also don't really have a defined goal weight because I've never lived in a body like the body that I'm currently building. So I don't actually know how much it's gonna weigh. But that's exactly why I combine my weight with these measurements and the body scan and how I feel and all of these data points, because the more data points there are, the less significant any kind of number becomes, and the less I will also depend on any kind of number for my mood or anything, because that's just not healthy in my opinion. But now I'm curious, so please tell me in the comments, do you take measurements or do you avoid them, or are you somewhere in between? I'm really curious to hear, and I'll see you next time. Bye!